Hi, and welcome to this Getting Started video series. These videos are meant to help you get started on your recovery journey. So today we're going to jump into step one. Let's look at step one together. We admitted we were powerless over the effects of our separation from God, that our lives had become unmanageable. And most of the time, something has brought you to this place, to a place where you are willing to step into a recovery community and get started on your recovery journey. And usually there's some sort of indicator that things are feeling unmanageable. That could be an addiction, that could be stress, that could be unforeseen circumstances that you're having to navigate. It could be a whole host of things. But one thing is typically true when someone starts their journey of recovery, and that is an acknowledgement of the unmanageability showing up in their life. It could be a specific area or it could be all over the place. But either way, we're usually pretty aware that things are not as they should be or as we would want them to be. And so we come to this step with a level of humility, which is just what we need to get started. Because this step is just that. It's a foundation to help you get started on the rest of your recovery journey. This step lays the foundation for the next several steps. And in that process, what you're going to find is every step builds on the last. So what does admitting that we're powerless over the effects of our separation from God look like? Well, it's really a perspective change. Oftentimes, we have lived under the illusion that we're in control. We've lived under the illusion that we can just, if we just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, we can fix it ourselves. Whatever's wrong, we try multiple ways of getting control over it. And it's not really until a lot of times we get to the end of our attempts that we're willing to acknowledge we need help. And that's what usually brings us to step one, as an acknowledgement of our own limitations. That if we could solve these problems and if we could fix them, we would have done so by now. So clearly we can't, and we have to admit that there are things at play in our life right now that directly connect to the fact that we're trying to play God instead of actually be in relationship with God and depend on Him. This is exactly where we need to be to get started. This step is so important because it's the step that changes our perspective from continuing to do the same things over and over again and approaching things in our own power to being willing to get honest with ourselves and say, I am powerless over the effects of my separation from God, and my life has become unmanageable. The thing this will kind of rub up against is your pride. Your pride and a lot of the thinking that is associated with that wants to continue with the illusion that you can fix this, wants to minimize the problems, and wants to continue on the path of ultimately what you're familiar with. But the good news is that there are a lot of other people just like you going through very similar things who have recognized this step, acknowledged it, and by continuing to take the next steps, found incredible freedom and have been able to overcome some of these significant obstacles and places of unmanageability. So there is hope for you. And that's exactly where you want to be when you come to this step, is ready to try something different, ready to look in a different direction, ready to break the cycle of insanity and look outside of yourself to a power greater than yourself to help restore you. And that, my friends, is where we're headed in step two.